Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for bringing me out here because this is pretty cool. This is my first time in Ohio. Yeah, so I'm very impressed with what you all have going on out here. You know, because we do a lot of traveling, and sometimes we go to markets in which we have no idea what to expect. So I really didn't know what to expect in Ohio. So checking out Columbus is a very good way to introduce me to all the flavor and all the creativity you guys got out here. So thank you for that. So I'm going to give you a bit of background about myself. I am an illustrator, a designer, and a curator for a traveling art exhibition called Jack Honey Art Beats and Lyrics. And how I started was, of course, you know, I moved to North Carolina when I was about 9 years old. You ever heard of a town called Fayetteville? Yes. All right, so are you familiar with Vietnam then? Okay, cool. That's where I grew up. And not a big art scene in Fayetteville. There's probably only one guy that really painted, and you know, he was an airbrush dude at the mall. You know, no, the flea market mall, because we had a big flea market mall, 100,000 square feet of booths. So, and I went up to him when I was 15. I was like, hey man, you know, can I learn how to? Can you show me something? And he was like, no. I'm like, all right, I got you. So I went back when I was 30. He was still there. Went back when I was 36. He was still there. So as far as I know, he's still there. Okay. But there wasn't a lot of artists around where I was, you know, coming up. So I went through high school and had a chance to go to East Carolina University. And you guys are familiar with football, so you probably know about East Carolina. All right. You know, usually doesn't get a rounding applause, but it's all right. It's okay. It's cool. But so I majored in communication arts with a concentration in illustration. And at that time, the concept of being an urban artist didn't exist in Greenville, North Carolina. So talking to a professor saying, yeah, I want to illustrate hip-hop culture. You know, I want to, you know, do these hip-hop magazines. They just couldn't wrap their head around it. And you all are familiar with how competitive art school can be. You know, you want to shine. You want to be the best. And one of the lessons I learned in college was, you know, I was about the grades. I wanted to get the best. You know, when you have the critique, you want to be the first person they talk about because that means your work is the hottest. But you don't want to be that person all the time because people start to hate on you. So you want to be the first person most of the time and then maybe the second person. But so one time we got our grades and the teacher gave me an A-. And I was angry because in my mind at the time, you know, being young, I was like, you really wanted to give me a B, but you couldn't justify it. You know, and at that time, I was actually doing twice as much work as everyone else. I would do the project, and they'll use my project as the example to show everybody else how to do it, and then I'd get an A-. You know, so that taught me early on, just because you work hard and you don't get what you think you deserve, doesn't mean you got to stop working hard. So I kept grinding, graduated with honors, and then I had to face, you know, what am I going to do for work? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to work at this big design firm, you know, because that's what they show you in art school. There's like all these design agencies, you're going to work for one. But it never dawned on me, there are none in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So when I went back home, I was applying for jobs. I'm like, wait a minute, I have nowhere to apply to. Then I got a job working at the newspaper. And I was a junior designer, and my sole purpose was to design car ads. You know, you ever seen those car ads with the starburst that says, no money down? That's what I did. You know, I'd go into work, and in movies, they make it seem like the editorial room is where all the action happens. You know, like, stop the presses, stop the presses. That's not how it works. The editorial room is quiet. It's the ad room that's crazy, because the ad room makes the money. So the designers get in at 10 o'clock. The people selling ads get in at like maybe 7. So they got all that time to build up animosity for something you did wrong. So when you walk in the door, they are at you. And that's what it was like. I'd be in my car praying like, God, please don't let nothing be on my desk. Because if something's on your desk when you get there, that means an ad ran wrong. That means they had to comp the client money, and they are hot. So I did that job, and then one day, there's a guy that was working there. He worked there for 42 years. And they had this big little ceremony for him, you know. Everybody stopped what they were doing. They gathered in the conference room, and then they were like, this man, he's come here for 42 years, and he's about to retire. We have this presentation, and they gave him a watch. And I'm like, that's it? You work here 42 years, you're not in charge of nothing, and you get a watch? I'm like, nah, this ain't for me. And that's when I realized that the only person that could be editor is somebody that's married into the family. And I'm like, let me get this straight. I can't be number one at all? It's impossible? I don't want to play that. So that's when I put my 2 weeks notice in. I take that back, 30 days notice. You should try this if you have a job you're trying to leave, put in a 30-day notice. It gives everybody a chance to take you out to eat, buy you gifts, wish you well. So that was my hustle. So I was like, I'm leaving in 30 days. And they're like, oh, well, no, before you go, let me take you out to eat. Matter of fact, here, take this with you. And I'm like, oh, this is great. So at the time I was, this is when the internet was like really starting to boom in the late 90s. How many people were working in that field around then? So you remember how money was flying. So they were, in Atlanta, they were needing designers so bad, they were willing to fly a guy from Fayetteville, North Carolina to Atlanta, pick him up in a limo, drive him out to eat, and like try to wine and dine a designer. And I was all about that. You know, I was all about it. You know, I would do things like the limo would pick me up and I'd be like, let's go to McDonald's. Just so I could walk out the limo and get like some hash browns and jump back in, you know? Yeah, I was younger, so that's how, you know. So I ended up getting a job designing websites, and this is, like I said, when money was flying in the web industry. And they were doing things like you go into the snack room and they'll like have real food in the snack room. You know, like hot dogs and like hamburgers and, you know, the cookies are stacked to the ceiling and there's all types of snacks, so you never leave. You always work there. And the company got acquired by another company, and slowly but surely, snacks weren't in the snack room like they used to be. You know, you get on the intercom, you hear on the intercom, you know, we need everybody to come in the conference room. And then a little bit of people don't come back from the conference room, you know? And usually, just for y'all that, if you worked in an industry like that, you're probably familiar with the concept of being laid off. And it works in waves. The first wave is the people that they just don't like. They're the first to go. You know, people they've had problems with, they don't like them, boom, they're the first ones to go. The second wave is the people that they can get by barely without. You know, it's going to make the people that are there work harder, but they can get by just a little bit out of them. And then the third wave probably it's a wrap. So at the time, I received a less than flattering report on my performance because I was about to put my 30 days in. So I was already somewhere else. And what I would do is, there was no work because, you know, after September 11th happened, work started drying up. And not to mention the company was about to get delisted from NASDAQ, which means that's it. It's a wrap. You're off the stock market. It's over. So what I would do is I'd tell my boss, I'm about to go work from home. And she's like, okay. For me, that meant I'm going to bed. So I'd go home, open up the laptop, get in my bed, and go to sleep. And if I hear, like, you know, back in the day, Yahoo Instant Messenger, you know, here, ding, I'll respond, oh, yes, I'm working away. Anyway, so I was laying in bed, and about 6 o'clock, ding, it opens up, Yahoo Instant Messenger opens up, and it says, hey, Dwayne, we need you to come in and put your paperwork in because we have to find your replacement. I'm like, cool. And I'm thinking, she's there sort of late. I wonder what that's about. Anyway, so next morning I get to work. I'm usually the second person in the office, usually. And I never take my jacket off at work. That was my thing, because I didn't want you to know if I just got there or I'm just about to leave. So that was my thing. I had the big yellow coat. I just didn't start working, you know? So I get in the office, and everybody's there. You know, people are faxing things, people are typing, and I'm like, why is everybody here today so early? So I sit down with my coat on, and then on the intercom, it's like, we will need everyone to report to the conference room. And behind me was a woman they just hired Monday. So we all go in the conference room, and then the owner of the company is like, okay, yesterday we had a staff meeting, and then a package came in. We were thinking it's like insurance paperwork because it had everybody's name on individual envelopes. They opened up the envelopes, and they found out that they're all fired. Yeah, so they shut down all the offices in North America that day. And that's how we found out the company was no longer around. So when he broke that down, you had young people with high overhead, you know, because they're balling out there. This is the, you know, the tech boom from back then. And this one guy was like, what does that mean? He's like, as of 5 o'clock today, they're shutting down all offices in North America. How does that relate to us? You know, I'm like, yo, dude, are you in North America? Are you in an office? They're shutting this down, bruh. You know? So I got up, walked to my desk, plugged in my hard drive, tried to download everything I worked on, and that's when I became a freelancer. And at that point, I was doing work for clients like Echo. I was doing work for clients like Pepsi and all those folks on the side. So the transition from, you know, the 9 to 5 to being a freelancer was pretty cool, you know, and had a lot of cool projects come along, stuff with like Apple. And I remember the Ludacris situation when he got messed up with Pepsi. So that was messed up, but it was great for artists because they wanted to put out a Black History Month calendar fast. They wanted to drop that Black History Month. As soon as they dropped Ludacris, like, we need to drop one today. And like, we need black artists. So I got hooked up with that project, and that was pretty cool. So fast forward a little bit. I'm getting out there in the Atlanta art scene, you know, getting to know my homeboy, Mr. Soul over here. He's from the Atlanta scene. And then this guy comes up to me, he's like, yo, I got this idea for an art show that I want to do. His name was Jabari Graham. And at the time, he worked for the circus, and he got laid off. And he wanted to do art shows because he was in the marketing department. He wasn't into, like, you know, acrobats and none of that stuff like that. He worked in the marketing department. So he had this idea called Art Beats and Lyrics, and he asked me to be in the show. My first response was, nah, I'm good. I got my other thing going over here. I'm planning this other thing with installations. I'm straight. And then that whole opportunity disappeared. So now I have nothing to do. So I'm like, hey, what's up with that show, man? You know, I got some artwork coming together. So we did the first show, and it was pretty cool. You know, we had a good turnout. About 300 people showed up to a bar in a place called Little 5 Points, which is it's like the little eclectic area in Atlanta. Now it's a little more corporatized, but, you know, gentrification happens. But so we did the first show, and it was a hit. Like a month later or so, Jabari and I were at another place called Apache Cafe. If you ever been to Atlanta, you probably heard of Apache Cafe. They're known for like their music, their poetry, the whole art scene, everything. There was like a cultural vibe that flowed straight out of there. So we're sitting down, and he's like, hey, man, I got this opportunity to do a show at the High Museum. And I'm like, yo, I'm down for that. Let's put it together. Let's work on this thing. And that was the first time my business partner and I ever worked together. And at that time, February was coming around again. You know, had another show with Pepsi and Apple this time. And on the way back, we went to Def Comedy Jam. That was the first time I've ever seen Def Poetry Jam, my bad. It was, if you ever watched Def Poetry Jam, it was an episode with Lauryn Hill, Dave Chappelle. I ran into Dave Chappelle in the bathroom, which is a weird situation, because the man was sitting there trying to write stand-up routine. His poem he's writing the poem in the bathroom, and you don't want to disturb him, but you're as a guy, you don't want to talk to him because you're in the bathroom. So you just look at him, and you're like, just walk out. So, anyway, one of the guys from Atlanta, who's a poet, was performing. And then the next day, we were all flying back to Atlanta from New York. And I'm like, yo, man, we got this show at the High Museum, man, and we're going to crush it. He's like, be careful. They are corporate gangsters. And I'm like, nah, bro, we got this, man. That was the truest thing anyone's ever said to me. Because after that event, you would think that we would have been, like, straight, but we were still trying to pay rent. And we had an event. We had all these artists to be part of this show. We built installations. We had it transported from a warehouse to this museum. We set it up in the lobby. But before I get to that, let's talk about how we got the money to do the show. After I met with Jabari, I hit up a guy named Mel. Mel worked for Coke, you know. I met him at a bar, and he's like, yo, if you ever need anything, hit me up. So I'm like, we need something. I'm going to hit him up. And I took a proposal from another famous artist at the time that I found and reworded the stuff and all that, and I sent it to him. And I'm walking to Little 5 Points again, and he calls me back. He's like, yo, Dub, I got your proposal, man. Yo, how much money you need? And it never dawned on me how much money it's going to take to pull off an art show. The first number I could think of was $10,000. It's like, $10,000. He's like, all right, cool. I'm like, whoa, $20,000, $15,000, man. We need more money. So now we're setting the show up at this museum, and we're expecting 500 people. We have walls with installations, we have DJs, we have break dancers, we have some of the city's coolest underground artists. This is before street art and all that was really cool and in galleries. This is before museums were like, come on in, you know, bring your urban culture in here. You know, they weren't feeling all that. Once they saw the people that were actually making the art, then we had to have a conversation outside. They were like, hey, we may not be able to set this up inside the museum. We have to set it up outside. And I'm like, what? And now artists, now think about artists, they're cool, but they can flip. You know? It went from, oh, yeah, we in the museum to, oh, no, man, let's go, man, let's go. Let's take all our stuff and go. And I'm like, we can't walk out of this place because Mel put his job on the line to get us this money for the show. And if we don't do this show, I'm thinking in advance, like, Coca-Cola is going to sue us. I'm going to have to leave Atlanta, change my name, you know, operate underground like the A-Team. You know? But so what happened is so many people showed up that they had to shut the doors within 2 hours. So we had, instead of 500 people, 3,000 people showed up. And it was an experience we weren't even prepared for, because we were prepared for 500 people, you know, a little wine and cheese, people sitting, eating crackers, walking around, looking at art, hearing DJs, watching B-boys spin. But then there was a line that went from out of the museum all the way down the street, you know, and all the people outside could only imagine what was going on inside. Most of the people didn't even see the show. They could just imagine. And that's what made us instant rock stars on the art scene of Atlanta. So after that show, everybody wanted to talk to us. We were like, yo, dude, I heard about your show. Did you see it? Nah, man, but I heard about it. And the show was nice. But in their mind, it was like some folklore. You know, it was like some thing that happened that's a myth. Huh? 10 minutes? Okay, cool. I'll wrap it up. So let me fast forward this whole thing. Because it's crazy. So 3 years later, we get hooked up with an agency. They're like, yo, we got a brand called E&J that want to sponsor it and take this on the road. Y'all familiar with E&J? Yeah. Not the fanciest of liquors, is it? No. So, but we had a 3-year layoff, and we're like, yo, let's do this, man. I'm putting a proposal together. Right before the meeting, phone call, E&J backed out. And I'm like, we can't even get E&J? Oh, damn, you know? So then we had a chance to partner with Jack Daniels. And that was a major turning point because Jack Daniels took a chance with us. You know, because they're not in the business of art, and they took a chance with us and actually put our show on the road. And we've been touring for the past 10 years. And we've been doing shows in stadiums, federal buildings, and we had an opportunity for a lot of artists to come through. Some of them went on to do amazing things. Some of them are doing amazing things right now. And there's a place called the Warehouse that we call the Warehouse. It's downtown. It's a warehouse owned by the guy who invented the Super Soaker. And that's where we build out our show. And I get to watch artists come in from all over the country and get inside of a hot warehouse in the summer in Atlanta. It is dusty, and they are producing masterpieces. So we get a chance to watch creative people just do amazing things. And Mr. Soul can testify to how hot and dusty that warehouse is. But it weeds off the people that ain't serious. They're not coming in the warehouse. You know, people are like, how do you get in the show? I'm like, come on down to the warehouse. Come on in. Here's an orbital sander. Grind these walls down. During the whole journey of it, you pick up some things. We've had situations where our show we thought we were going to the next level. You know, we had a national tour. We had Shepard Fairey designing stuff for us. You know, this is like big. And we like, okay, it's going to be awesome. And then we got canceled. You know, and that was like crushing. You know, you feel like you're so close and it's all over. But then slowly, we had an opportunity with the company. They took another chance with us, and we're build it up. And now we're still on the road. We're about to do 9 cities this season. So if I have to say anything as far as like takeaways go from the whole experience as being a creative versus, you know, being an illustrator, designer, curator, creative, you know, backup dancer, you know, puppeteer, I don't know, anything. I would say this. Decide whether you like something or whether you love it, especially when it's art. You know, if you love it, you're going to treat it differently than you like it. People that you like, you treat differently than you love. When you love something, you think about it constantly. It can stress you out. It can make you stronger. It can make you better. And I think a lot of the conflict that artists have in general, from my experience, is they confuse the liking art versus the loving it, or the loving it versus the liking it. So once you make that decision, whether you like it or you love it, that will help navigate your whole creative journey. Another one is adapt to survive. In my life, I've had to be an illustrator, a designer, a curator, all to stay working. And so don't be so closed-minded to things. You know, be open and try new experiences, and you don't know where it's going to go. You know, and one of the last things is When you show up, show out. That's something you can think about, and you can do that just about anything, but not too much. If you're going to the bank, don't show out at the bank or anything like that. Don't do that. But when you're doing an art show, and I find that you got to put your work out there, and you got to be on the wall right next to somebody else. You want to give it your all. You want to do everything that you can to make sure that your piece is straight fire. Do not phone it in, because people can tell, you know, and you can tell sometimes. So when it comes to putting stuff on the walls, you know, go in and be very, very, I wouldn't say overly aggressive, but really think about how to elevate your game. Watch other people, you know, not necessarily copy other people, but see what's out there. Travel to art fairs, go to art shows, meet other artists, and always take something to put in your toolbox. And, you know, that can help out and make your stuff even stronger. How are we doing on time? 8 minutes. Wow, that was fast. Okay, so now I can go through the slideshow. Yeah, so now we're going to get a chance to see what I do. This is one of my pieces. It's called Yo DMC. It is a parody, of course, of Run DMC and Yoda, and it's taken a little life of its own. You could probably catch some grown men with tattoos of it on them, you know. This is a piece called Pop Sucks. That's mostly acrylic and some collaging. That piece is about maybe 16 by 16. Big Daddy came for all those old school hip hop heads. He actually has this in his, I hope it's in his house, I don't know where he put it, but it was presented to him through Red Bull. This one's called Fly. This is where I'm at right now with my work. I'm doing a lot of collages, capturing women of color with cool gazelles on. That's my thing. This one is a piece that was in, you guys watch, what was it, Star? That show, Stars? Or Star, I think it was called, by Fox. This piece was actually in this TV series. They hit me up and they were like, hey, can we produce it in the background? So episode 3, we're in Benjamin Bratt's trying to get money. If you look in the background really fast, you'll see this picture. This is a part of my fighter series. This is a female fighter. You know, I got into doing self-defense training and boxing and all that good stuff, so that influenced my work. Something for the sci-fi heads and comic book people. Storm, you know. That's what I was trying to do, because my brother's a barber and I was really trying to impress him. You know, so I did the little light fade, thunderbolt in it. Mike Tyson? Okay, this is the fake money I was talking about yesterday. So I wanted to do a piece that talked about, you know, the prize fighting. That is a fake Louis Vuitton purse that I mentioned yesterday, I got from the Philippines. And all of this fake prop money. If you ever get a chance to go out to the Philippines, cop yourself one, $17. Picture of, this is actually a mentor of mine, and he posed for this picture, Gilbert Young. It's called Hope for Change. That's a pretty, it's like 72 inches by 72. Oh, skip through those. Biggie, y'all familiar with him? This is a cassette that, actually, if you turn it sideways, it's a cassette. It's called Radio City. Yeah, thank you. Then we have, bam, this is where we get into the art, beats, and lyric stuff. This is the logo. Thank you. I try. This is the line at the Birmingham Museum of Art this year. This is to get into the museum. This is what the installations look like from the aerial. You know, these walls here are 8 feet by 8 feet, and each artist has a chance to do a mural, an installation, and all that to customize it. Some artwork, Kazilla out of Miami. A guy named Neocon from DC, he's a beast. You know, he flies in and knocks it out in like a couple days and flies home. That's the piece he did for the show. Yeah, and that's ever policy, no white walls. There's no white walls in the show. This is the piece that's happening this year. The horse heads are 3-dimensional. And yeah, I'm an artist in the show, and I try to do my best to, you know, I don't want to get shown up in my own show. But this year, he put it down. I can't touch that. I'm not doing 3-dimensional horse heads. Frank Morrison, he is a very famous artist, and he's an illustrator of children's books. So we dropped those pieces in the show a couple years back. Oops, where did I hit this? Okay, Fuse Green out of New York. He's a designer, art director, awesome guy. And then we have, this was my installation this year. I wanted to recreate an artist studio. You know, so little things of note. You really can't tell, but the backdrop is a photo backdrop, so it looks like the space continues, and so that was my thing for this year. Pimp C by Maya Bailey. He's a legend in Atlanta, awesome tattoo artist, part of the City of Ink crew, and just all-out cool dude. And that's one of the shows we did. I forgot what city it is, but that's an example of how it looks at night when we do shows that are outdoors. It is? That was Atlanta? Yeah, it was Atlanta. Okay. Oh, word. Hold up. Whoa. Yes, that is their wall. So it's Goldie Gold, Flux, and Mr. Soul. That's a close-up shot of it. Amazing artist doing incredible stuff. And another piece by Frank Morrison. You know, it is a hip-hop art show at its core, so, you know, we got to have a lot of breakdancing, b-boying, and all that. This guy's a stencil artist out of L.A. named Matt Curran. He cut all those stencils. That's hand-cut stencils to produce that work. Yeah, it's madness. And this is a slight video. How do you play the video of this thing? Yeah. So, okay, maybe you can. All right. So I guess there's no sound, so I'll just make it a silent movie. So, so what you're seeing now is people, I think this is Chicago. Now, we did this last year for the first time in Chi-Town, and it was freezing, and people waited in line outside to get in. So being that it's sponsored by Jack Daniels, and we partnered with them, you know, so the deal is you come, you register online, and you get a complimentary drink or two. So people are really feeling good once they walk in. You know, we have musical acts, people in the past. Whoever heard of Clyde Stubblefield? He was on tour with us for several shows. Scarface, Digital Underground, DJ Lloyd from Public Enemy, Phife Dawg from Tribe Called Quest, DMC from DMC. We're getting Bun B this year, which I'm super excited about. And we had Twister, Mystical, Fred Wesley, James Brown's horn player. So we have a variety of musicians that have been on tour with us. And so the party gets pretty live, as you can see. Average turnout's about maybe between 2,000 to 4,000 sometimes. And we set all this up in one day and take it down the same day. So that's Drez the Beatnik, host. Oops, that's Mystical. Now here's something about Mystical on the side note. You guys remember who Mystical is, Mr. Shake It Fast? Women love that dude. For real. For real. They really get down on some Mystical. Like mamas and daughters out there. It's something when you see a 40-year-old woman on stage acting like it's like she's 20 up there trying to grind on Mystical. Oh. Yeah, it's crazy. So in 2 minutes, I think we have a shot of the get-free giveaways and all that on stage. And we're doing virtual reality this year, so we're taking it past just doing art and, you know, looking at art, so we're doing VR. So we're trying to make it more technologically based and such. And this is a picture of Mystical with somebody's mama. Right there. That's what I talk about. And look how she's looking at him. Yeah, I want y'all to look at that. Just think about it. So that's my social media. Please make sure you follow me. And if you have any questions, please ask me. Thank you. Thank you.
We got time for maybe 2 questions.
So
having spent 20 years in Atlanta and being part of the artistic community we built and coming back home to Cleveland and Ohio, one of the biggest questions is how to develop a unified artistic community. Like I'm in Cleveland and we're fragmented. You know, young urban, specifically black artists don't have a scene.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a unity. And I've spoken to some artists here and they're looking to do the same thing. So what can you lend to that situation in terms of what your experience of how we were able to develop that in Atlanta?
Well, I'll tell you this, Atlanta, the art scene is like a bunch of different groups that come together to do stuff. And artists show when other artists shows. So like Maya from the City of Ink and yourself have been in our show for a decade almost. And every year they hit me up and I'm in their show. So one of the things that I could say with creative community is put each other on, you know, as much as you can. If you got an opportunity to bring somebody along with you, do it. You know, if you have an opportunity to help somebody out as a creative, do it. That builds the community. And, you know, they'll put you on, you put them on, and it'll keep going and going, and then people can share ideas. and also hanging out together. You know, a lot of artists are just all about their studios, you know, but they don't really socialize. But if you actually get to know people and you actually can learn from them, go visit their studio. You know, I go to my studio and I'm excited because I'm buying whatever gadget or pen he has next, you know. So I think that's one of the ways, I think. And also, you know, being open. A lot of times we want to keep things to ourselves, you know, keep our little secrets. Artists have secrets, secret techniques. There are no secrets, you know. And the one thing I can share is this. I guess I'll make this relative. If LeBron were to sit there and tell me everything he knows about basketball, chances are I'm still not going to be LeBron. Chances, you know. So feel free to share people because the information can help make you better, makes them better, makes the scene better, and everybody comes up together. Okay, one more question.
I think we have the.
Okay,
I've been getting the axe.
The axe. Okay.
Give W a round of applause,
Thank you.
please.